I've done this wrong. What did I do? Shit, get me out of here. All right, I duplicated the screens.
Oh boy!
As opposed to swapping them, so I got very confused.
Okay.
This is not my episode, so Liam has to do all the work. Thank God.
And you may find yourself in a beautiful bonus episode. And you may say, this is not my beautiful podcast.
God, this sucks. Why does he keep doing bonus episodes?
You may say, this is not my beautiful slide template.
Why does he keep doing bonus episodes on stuff none of us care about? Because it's my bonus episode. And because the Eagles, once again, broke my heart in two.
I like football.
I like football.
Yeah, I like football. I care about football.
Let me just have this drop queued up.
Yeah, you're going to need that quite a bit here, actually.
Thank you, Alice.
That was 3 years ago today.
It was.
Wow.
My girlfriend was at the NFC Championship, as she's very keen to remind me. They ran out of fireworks and just kept showing me Snapchat videos from 3 years ago. So that was my
I got
afternoon.
so many of those memories popping up on Snapchat today.
All right, we ready?
So, yeah, I mean, we've been recording for like a minute
Welcome
now.
to the NFL on wtyp, the airing of grievances.
You were completely blown out on that.
Oh.
Yeah, ow.
Yeah.
Welcome
Just
to the NFL on
completely-
wtyp, the airing of grievances.
I mean, I can do
thank
you
you.
an echo effect, but it'll just sound anti-Semitic. Welcome to WTYP on the NFL.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted.
We need one of those like Fox Sports Gundams they had for a while.
I
Do
always
they
wanted
still
to
have those?
football.
They
Sometimes
do.
We need some.
Yeah.
We need some of the like Fox Sports like whoosh noises, like all of the like interstitial noises you get on a sports show. We need some of those, like.
And then they have the sad music when they go to commercial after a gruesome injury. It's like the robot music, but a sadder, drop down, mournful version. Yeah.
I always like that the NBC is just like, fuck it, throw the Wonder Years in there. We don't care.
Let's do a quick outro to modern baseball.
You don't know pain until you've watched an NFL game with BBC commentators.
Oh, that sounds...
No music, no sound effects, two British accented men being like, well, it's not exactly like rugby, but it's kind of New Orleans Saints, innit?
Ross and I once watched a Red Sox, I don't even know who it was, Arizona Diamondbacks game on a bootleg stream where the sound didn't work. So we had to do all the commentary ourselves for 2.5 hours.
Yes.
All right.
Mystery Science 3000 style.
It's exactly right. All right.
Roll Fizzle Beef.
Let's talk about...
Roll Tide Fizzle Beef.
Do not Roll Tide. We're not doing Alabama football today. Let's talk about the history of the No Fun League. Next slide, please.
Liam, you need to at least introduce our guest.
Oh,
since it's
shit.
your
Sorry,
episode.
Seamus. Seamus, you want to introduce yourself? Sorry,
Not
bud.
now.
Well, I'm so sorry.
Nah, all good. I'm Seamus Clancy. I'm a South Philly-based writer covering the Eagles and Sixers. Follow me on Twitter at Seamus_Clancy. Check out the podcast, the Eagles podcast I do for Bleeding Green Nation called From the Bleachers. Just search Bleeding Green Nation on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you're using. And most importantly, if you want to contribute to my well-being, sign up for my Philly sports newsletter, patreon.com/Seamus_Clancy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right, we got the commercial out of the way first.
Yeah.
Nice.
This being the NFL, Seamus is going to have to go like 6 more times, though. So hope you're hydrated, buddy. Give me the airing of grievances. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Am I hallucinating, or am I just still seeing the NFL on WTYP slide?
Yeah, I also am seeing that. I don't think the stream is on Discord is uploading.
Let me check here. I just switched it. Great. Fantastic. Oh, I see what's going on.
I just see a SEPTA token. RIP.
Yeah, that's his.
Yeah.
Stream. Here we go. Okay.
There we go. We done it. We done
It's
did
the
it.
No Fun League.
It's the No Fun League. All right. So let's talk about What is football?
What is football?
It's
It's not quite like rugby, but it's a bit like rugby, isn't it?
it's the superior sport. There's 11 guys on each side of the ball, and they attempt to murder each other. So basically,
as Twitter put it, the strong men harm each other in pursuit of the egg.
yes, you have a ball. You attempt to move it to your opponent's end zone. You have a set of downs, which are tries. So you start nominally first and 10, and then you have to get 10 yards. And every time you complete a set of downs, assuming you don't fuck everything up, you get a new set of downs once you've advanced the ball those 10 yards or those nominal 10 yards. So I don't know what other a holding's not a real penalty. I don't know what other rules should I have in here.
When you
field
fumble
goals.
the ball out of the end zone and then the other team gets it, that was the big
that's a
controversial
bullshit
rule.
That's
Everyone was
bullshit
freaking
rule.
out over that. None of the rules of the game make any sense. Like, obviously,
Yeah,
I'm
should-
from Philadelphia. I'm from the United States. I grew up watching the sport, so I know it quite well. Whereas I would meet people in college who didn't grow up in the country, just international students, and they had absolutely no idea how the game goes on because it doesn't actually make any sense.
No, and the NFL is like actively hostile to you trying to learn how
Yes.
to play football.
Yeah, there's been controversies. I didn't include cut for time. The holding's not a real penalty. Stop calling it slide.
You know,
But-
it reminds me in this fashion
Schrodinger's
of the way
holding.
the Democratic Party approaches policy.
Totally incomprehensible.
You're not supposed
You have to
be
go
able to
through this
understand it.
certain number of colleges in order to like be in it. And if you
Yes.
don't do that, then fuck you.
Yes, pretty much.
That's-
I mean, the
That's
rule
our
book.
political humor for the night.
The rule book is genuinely incomprehensible. No one knows what a catch is. There's instant replay, which doesn't fucking help.
It actually makes things worse, even.
It does. It does. If you want to do computer assisted replay, you should have 15 seconds to make a determination. And if you don't, the refs get shot.
I love it.
Just doing the like stuff that they say the DPRK does, where you're just like shooting up guys with anti-aircraft guns.
Yeah,
and
I would
mortars.
actually do that. Listen, I
Yeah.
have had to sit through one too many like Bills Colts games.
If
I'm
you
tired.
replaced the flying camera on those series of cables over the field with a machine gun,
Yeah, but crucially, it is autonomous. Like the machine gun is not under anyone's control.
No, it's a turret from Portal.
it's
Yeah.
it's already a violent sport. Let's just cut to the chase here.
Yeah,
I don't think referees are real people.
they're all lawyers. Fuck them.
They're not human beings. They're subhuman to me.
Who invented the game of football?
Well, so the game itself goes back to actually 1867 when my alma mater, Rutgers University, beat Princeton University 9-7. Actually, it was 1870, the first ever college football game, but it doesn't look like anything you would see now. No forward passes. It was a lot more like rugby. But because we won the war, we have the better sport. So the NFL itself is founded in 1920 at a Hupmobile dealership in Canton, Ohio.
A Hupmobile?
Yeah, they don't make those anymore.
What's a Hupmobile?
It's a kind of car. I should have
Probably
included
like a guy
Hupmobile
named
on there.
like Irving Hupp or something just invented a car. Because like Oldsmobile was a guy
Bobby
called
Hupp.
Olds.
Yeah.
Bobby Hupp.
Yeah. If you want to look, you can look up Hupmobiles on the internet.
Hup
I was
Man.
too busy finding the No Fun League graphic.
Why is it in the Harry Potter font though?
I don't know. I don't ask questions anymore. I just steal stuff off the internet and
Yeah, we just perceive
Because-
stuff. We just let it
because
watch
the rules
over
of
us.
the NFL are almost as arcane as Quidditch.
no, Quidditch is easier to understand. There's catches in Quidditch.
Yeah, and in
A
Quidditch there's
defender
only
doesn't-
two genders.
You don't have to get your both feet down to throw the quaffle or whatever.
Man, a Hupmobile looks like a surprisingly elegant car for something that sounds like it would not be.
What are the advanced
They're pretty
analytics in Quidditch? Do you just go for the snitch the entire time?
You go for like the
Quidditch sabermetrics.
What are the sabermetrics? They say
Quidditch Moneyball.
just all seekers.
I was about to say, if you got the best seeker, you can get that game done in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They must be terrible for television.
Put Patrick Mahomes at seeker.
Yeah, you put Patrick Mahomes, Jadavon Clowney still runs him over somehow. I'm so tired of Jadavon Clowney existing. So I want to bring up a specific team, the Pottsville Maroons, who were kicked out of the early NFL because of an unauthorized exhibition game, okay, so let me explain. Back in the early days of American football, the teams were not in the cities you'd think of today. They were in places like Pottsville, Pennsylvania. And like weird Midwestern towns like that. The only team that survives
in support of the theory that Philadelphia is Midwestern.
Pottsville's a coal belt, but shut the fuck up. The only one that survives is the Green Bay Packers, Roz's favorite team.
Because they're fan owned.
They are fan owned.
That's communism.
So
communism is when you throw the football, and the more you throw the football, the more communism it is.
Yeah, communism is you run the ball like an adult.
We have to establish a run. See, it's easy to establish a run game when you have an O-line, but as we'll get to, the Eagles stubbornly refuse to have one. Roz, you played right guard for like 3 games last year.
That's one of my favorite recurring bits is that all of us have been drafted into the Eagles at some point.
Yes.
That O-line was atrocious this year.
Establishing the run's like trying to fix the deficit. Just don't worry about it. It's all fake.
I always do love, on a side note, the coaches that like decide they have to establish a run when it's like midway through the 3rd quarter, and they finally like got back to page 1 of their script, and they're like, "Oh shit, we should probably do something about this run defense." So the Pottsville Maroons were kicked out of the league during the early days because of an unauthorized exhibition game. But that's because the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, who would sort of kind of eventually become the Eagles, were mad they were stealing glory from them because the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets had signed up to play that exhibition game in the first place. And then the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, in a long and proud history of Philadelphia fans not being able to let things go, tattled on the league, got the Pottsville Maroons kicked out, and now on to the championship.
So was this like early days of baseball where they're like company teams?
Not
or was it all like city teams, or was it all like
you had these weird melds of like semi-professional teams? Because at the time college ball was thought to be superior. So like as an example, like the Chicago Bears, the most dominant team in the early days of the NFL, got on average like a 1/6 of the attendance of the Army-Navy game. Like the Army-Navy game was regularly attracting 60, 70,000 people, and Bears games might get 10,000, usually less than that, usually around 7,500.
Oh, and speaking to your point about them being from like different towns, the Bears were started in like Decatur.
Yes, they did. And like it's weird because you get all these shitty little. I've always found this interesting because I think a lot of people culturally think of football as sort of a Southern sport, but if you look at where the league started, it's all the Northeast and into the Midwest. And I've always found it interesting how you get this like college football's a religion down south, but the first game ever played was between Rutgers University and Princeton University.
I will also point out, just as an aside, that the first professional American football player was named Pudge Heffelfinger.
Yes. All pudgy hefts. Yeah, we're also talking about a game where, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't really look like today's game in that you basically have no forward passing and everyone's trying to do the old run style of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. So you're talking super low scoring games. I think it kind of goes without saying that there's no safety equipment. Guys are just basically getting paralyzed on the field, which apparently is bad for the league. Who knew?
A lesson that was being learned constantly every year.
Yeah, I always love that like this. So Patrick Mahomes, who plays for the Kansas City Chiefs, took a really brutal hit last week, and the NFL is just like, see, our concussion protocol works, even though like 2 years ago they let Jacoby Brissett from the Indianapolis Colts basically get the doors knocked off him and then set him in on the very next snap, and it's just kind of like, no, it works for the guys you want to work it. You want it to work for. Like if it's just
compare that to like something like say Formula One, right, where you have an actual demonstrable like thing that reduces the number of catastrophic brain injuries, and it's just like, yeah, no, you kind of could do something like that, but you don't want to.
I think not wanting to is a big part of how the NFL sort of keeps itself afloat. I mean, we like the reason like they have a pass interference review now is because the New Orleans Saints basically threw a temper tantrum at them. It's insane bullshit, but like, then was it Browns Chiefs, Seamus, that touchback happened on?
Yes.
Yeah, that bullshit rule Seamus was talking about that shouldn't ever exist, and yet it totally fucked over the Browns for a chance to like get to the AFC championship, excuse me. So I mean, one of the things we're going to learn here is the NFL, I think, genuinely is the most wildly inconsistent league we have, and that makes it a national treasure.
It's a land of contrasts.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Washington football team, the most racist organization in professional sports.
And I mean, the bar is on the floor, but they still found a way to dig under it.
So you might be wondering, well, 1930, the 1930s and 1940s were segregated. Now, how did the NFL handle this? Not great.
Wow.
So
surprising.
There were black players before 34. There weren't a ton of them, but they did exist. They did play. And then in 1934, the league basically decides to segregate itself thanks to George Preston Marshall, who founded the Washington Slur team. And then in the notes, it says boo loudly.
I was about to say, we're very, very Shakespearean podcast. We have not many stage directions, but they do exist.
I hate Dan Snyder. Like, he's one of those dudes who you just, I'm like ashamed you're Jewish and I'm Jewish at the same time. The Washington football team doesn't integrate, I think, until 1962, and they had to be pressured because the federal government technically owned RFK Stadium, and the Washington football team was playing there, so the federal government literally had to like make them integrate. And George Preston Marshall didn't want any black players because his team was popular in the South. And there were also quotas and shit on black players. And you can still see that today. There's this quarterback who plays for the Baltimore Ravens. His name is Lamar Jackson. He's exciting as hell. He's really good. And there was this sort of discussion going around that he should convert to running back rather than quarterback, even though he was really good at quarterback in college. And I've always, like, the last team to start a black quarterback, would you like to guess what year that was?
Before
it's
Lamar?
It's going to be shockingly late.
It's
right?
2016. It's my team, the New England Patriots. Jacoby Brissett.
I was thinking it was going to start with a 20, but like,
no, I was just confused. I was trying to do the timeline in my head with Brissett. So would he go to Indianapolis in 2018?
Yeah, he went to Indianapolis after the Brady suspension when Brady came back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's I don't know, Seamus, I'm actually interested in getting your thoughts on this, about if you think there's sort of a racism at quarterback especially, but just because, like, there's no white cornerbacks anymore. but like black quarterbacks are still kind of few and far between.
Yeah, Jason Sehorn, I believe, was the last white cornerback. There's some white safeties still, but Jason Sehorn, who played for the Giants, unfortunately had a couple big playoff moments against my Eagles turn of the century. But I think it's institutionalized in the sense that it's systemic and it starts at the lowest levels of football. It's not just an NFL problem. It's not just a college football problem. It's not just a draft evaluation problem where you have, these boomers running the league, seeing Lamar Jackson, throw for 50 yards, 50 touchdowns in college and run for 25 more and saying, well, he's fast, he should play wide receiver. It starts at the lowest levels of football. We're saying, oh, this kid's fast. He must play a skill position that's not necessarily a quarterback. That is for the specific, white player, this, all-American kid.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Because I'm thinking about sort of like the Eagles when they took on Mike Vick and how it sort of gave them the shot in the arm they hadn't had. And they had Donovan McNabb.
Historically had a lot of black quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that in the Andy Reid slide. Because that Andy Reid, I think, gives chances to players no one else would even bother giving a chance to.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page because this is an engineering disasters podcast, which a bunch of nerds listen to. What is a quarterback? What is a cornerback?
Oh, we had to just. I didn't know we had to go that. Shit.
We got to John Madden this.
We got time.
Yeah, we're gonna have to John Madden this. Let me put the line of scrimmage right here.
All right. I'll do quarterback. Seamus, you want to take corner?
Sure. Well, I think it makes more sense if you go first with quarterback, and then I can explain cornerback.
All right. So quarterback is the guy who sort of, by and large, captains the team. He's responsible for setting plays up. He's responsible for getting his team down the field during those sets of downs we talked about. So he throws the ball or can give it to a running back and they advance the ball downfield.
I remember a dreadful article that said, in the game of politics, there's one quarterback and that's the president. So if you want to be a nerd, just reverse engineer that. In the game of football, there's one president and it's the quarterback.
Yeah, he's, I hate to say the most important player, but he is the most important player.
It's the most important position in sports, essentially, the most powerful position. And as for cornerback,
if you are the quarterback, you can command any baseball team.
Baseball,
yeah. Who is your commanding quarterback?
Well, the Eagles don't know at the moment, but Captain Jalen Hurts, reporting for duty, sir. I can also play outfielder because anyone with the pulse can play outfielder. All right. And so in addition to the quarterback, there's receivers who catch the ball and advance downfield, running backs who by and large run the ball downfield. There's guards, which is what Roz plays. They're responsible for making sure the quarterback doesn't die when the defense comes at him. And then there's also tight ends, which are sort of a mixture of guards and receivers.
And the cornerback is the guy who runs around the field against those receivers, those pass catchers, to prevent the quarterback and the offense from moving the ball down the field. So the quarterback throws up the ball to the receiver. The cornerback is right there with him, tries to swat it away, tries to catch it himself and give his own team possession. Very hard, maybe the hardest position other than quarterback to play, because you're defending, you're guarding, you're covering, however you want to say it, the fastest players in the league who are wide receivers, and you have to keep up with them as they're running at you and you're running backwards. So really almost an impossible task in a pass-happy league where the rules are oriented to have big offenses, offensive explosion, scoring power, because that draws audience viewers, it brings excitement. So the whole game is sort of against cornerback. So really, you need to be an uber-level athlete to excel at the position.
That's weird. Alice played corner for the Eagles, week 3 and
That's
4
right.
this season. She was not very good, folks.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the estrogen for you. Like ever since President Biden decided to start letting trans people do sports now, you'd think that we would just dominate it, but no.
Well, it doesn't help that you're 5'7" and just get run over by every receiver in the league.
What do you
Besides
do?
whoever's
Is
playing
just
for the
go
Patriots.
off meds, and then
Just go beast mode, yeah. No, I mean, like the thing is though, yeah, I'm 5'7", but that's a low center of gravity, and also I'm very overweight. So
Congratulations, you play running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. If Boston
Occasionally
Scott
some
can do it, you can do
5'9"
it.
corners.
Yeah, there's
You're
some
not too
short
far
guys.
off. You're not too far off.
running around the field in platform cleats.
Costanza style.
So now that we've explained the rules at least somewhat, next slide, please. Yep, this is what it used to look like, folks. The good old days when men were men and could smoke cigarettes before, again, the No Fun League took. Remember what they took from us.
So you're
Yeah,
drinking a
That's
beer as
halftime of the
well?
Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
Imagine in 2
That's-
weeks, Tom Brady, they're down by 7 to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. There are millions and millions and millions of people watching all over the world. And Tom Brady is just ripping a cig in the lot.
just ripping heaters.
Just
in the
ripping
lawn.
heaters.
Just ripping heaters, yeah.
on like a shitty folding chair, which is like so good.
Yeah, so this is
The largest problem with sports, they're too competitive now. You can't smoke while you're doing them. The only playable sport anymore, obviously, is professional bowling.
if
And
you
let's-
can eat
let's
while
not
you
forget
play
about
it, it's not a
gaming.
sport.
Let's not think about like StarCraft. You can probably smoke while you're doing that.
Can you?
could
No, you
smoke while
can't.
you're playing.
You need hands. You
Oh
gotta use-
shit, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, unless you've rigged up some sort of elaborate smoking contraption.
You just have somebody to like smoke for you.
You have like a
Some poor
holder.
kid,
You have a holder like you're in your 1920s
30s Parisian woman.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You know, and
I
you
guess maybe
you have
like you
someone
could
come in and replace the cigarette.
yeah, or like you could do it with like a cigar or like a pipe. Maybe you could play StarCraft. I think.
In like a pinstripe suit.
Don't buy a
Yeah.
pinstripe suit. You're not the Yankees. You don't need to do that.
No, pinstripe suits have this like weird cursed thing where everybody who like wears a suit thinks they'll look good in one, and then never ever happens.
I have a pinstripe suit.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I've never seen you,
You
wear
know
it.
what? You know what? I've never actually worn it
Oh.
except because I had a gray flannel one and a black one. I wore the gray one for public sector job interviews and the black one for private sector interviews.
Got to keep that sort of sense of purdah.
Yes, exactly.
So this suit cannot be like befouled with commerce.
Yeah. It's
It's like your toga candida.
They give you 3 suits for the price of one at Joseph A. Banks. So,
So that was what you were
just thought
doing.
you thought you'd like cut out and get a pinstripe one for the third one.
yeah, exactly. What I realized is I should get an olive one if I got an academic job interview.
Ah.
Yeah.
No,
I
he's
realized that after the fact.
What field would you interview for in a pinstripe suit?
Casino ownership.
working for the Eagles. I had a job interview with the Eagles out of college, and I didn't get the job, and I've been salty ever since.
What's the position?
It was analytics. They ended up hiring some fuck from Penn as opposed to me, good Temple boy.
Penn is the worst fucking school of all time.
Yeah,
It
well,
is. Yes.
it's a garbage school for garbage people.
Yeah, it only took me like 6.5 years to get out of there.
Oh, sorry, Seamus.
Oh my God.
Should have gone to Temple, Seamus.
I sympathize as someone who took a gentleman's term at Drexel.
You did.
I was 5.5, not 6.5.
That's fine.
I was 5.5 as well.
I was 5.5 too.
the real power move is to take 5 and then drop out. That's the real.
I know somebody who
like,
did that. My old friends.
Yeah, me.
Oh, Alice. I know two people who've done that then.
That's right.
All right. So the NFL, I wanted to talk briefly about other leagues, and we have one on the next slide too. So the NFL is sort of the dominant professional football league for its entire existence. But in the 1960s, a rival league called the AFL starts. They get a bunch of big names and they have a ton of money. Those two leagues eventually merge, and they have the Super Bowl. I just wanted to throw that in case you're wondering where the Super Bowl comes from. It's because originally the AFL and NFL played each other, and then they merged into the NFL. The AFL was the American Football League, not the American Federation of Labor. There have been other
Also
sort of
important.
upstart.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. I was about to say the what's his face? The guy the guy who hated communists. What's his name?
That does not narrow
McCarthy?
that down.
No, not
John
McCarthy. The
Pete Rozelle.
AFL guy.
Tech Shrank?
No. It was
Tech Shram.
something with a G in it.
Look, American football guy who hates communism. Again,
No, I was thinking American Federation of Labor guy who hates communism. Samuel something.
Gompertz.
Gompertz. Yes, yeah, that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, we got there in the end.
All right. Anyway, having completely derailed this once again.
That's
Yo,
okay.
you remember Samuel Gompertz?
Yeah, every once in a while I think about Samuel Gompers and I just
You just
feel
get
with
mad.
rage.
Yeah.
So there are other leagues. Most recently, there was the Association of American Football, which was a spring league. So not playing when the NFL does. The NFL plays fall through winter. And then it imploded because it had no money. Speaking of money, next slide, please.
Oh, what if we made football
Yes.
epic?
Honestly though,
Roz and I went to an XFL game last
we
year
did
or 2 years
we did
ago.
go- It was around this time last year actually, because
Yeah.
the first go around of the XFL. Yeah,
You
we
should mention the
opening game
USFL
of the Washington
for Trump
Defenders.
reasons.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to tell that story? I don't have that in here. Didn't he try to
I can do
buy
a
a
quick one.
team or the whole? Yeah, go for it.
He owned a team. Donald Trump was one of the owners of the New York / New Jersey Generals, I believe, of the USFL, which came out in, I think, 84, 85, 83, 86 range. They ran about for 3 seasons. Philadelphia, they were the Philadelphia Stars. Philadelphia was actually the best team in that league because Philadelphia excels in all football leagues, the Arena League, the USFL, besides the NFL. They competed in the spring opposite of the NFL, obviously in the fall. And just like the AFL in the 60s, they had a ton of capital come in. They were paying huge contracts to college stars like Reggie White, who ended up being a Hall of Fame player for the Eagles, but played in the USFL for a little bit. Steve Young, who became a Hall of Fame quarterback for San Francisco 49ers, but played in the USL for a bit. Herschel Walker was considered one of the best college players of all time, signed a huge deal with the USFL. And then Donald Trump, as he wrestled more power within the USFL overall, the United States Football League, finally saying what the acronym is, tried to move the sport to the fall. And when going against the NFL, inevitably that was a disaster. And so eroded the USFL. There is actually a great ESPN 30 for 30 documentary called Who Killed the USFL that I recommend checking out. Obviously features the 45th president quite prominently in it.
Are you suggesting that he was not successful in this
In a
one of
business venture?
his many deals? Yeah.
And then he tried to later buy the Buffalo Bills unsuccessfully.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Shit, I can't say he's the president anymore because the president is Joe Biden now. The Donald Trump was not successful in a business measure. My God,
Can you
Orange
imagine?
man, as they say, bad.
Orange man bad.
Orange man, not
Orange
good
man
at
bad.
business. I can say that much.
No, I've been to his failed casino sale. So
Yeah,
let's
taking
talk
us all the way back to Liam's van.
about
Yes.
the XFL. So this was a joint venture between the WWE and NBC.
Yeah.
So it was like this was just, I remember being like 9 years old and just shitting my pants. I was so excited. Players do.
It was going to be like chaos mode, right?
It's going to be like football, but with like pro wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah. Vince McMahon would push a button and then like a third team would be added to the scoreboard and attempt to score points like at a 90-degree angle.
Well, because originally Vince McMahon wanted to buy the Canadian Football League, and that was unsuccessful. And they had rules like players could like pick their own like the name on the back of the jersey,
which is why we got that Spike Lee movie, She Hate Me.
Yeah. And he genius. We like there was a human coin toss where instead of a normal coin toss, players just scrambled for the ball and that determined possession. Like punting was basically forbidden. So
Good.
There was all offense. I know, all offense all the time, and basically that's what the NFL is now. Whether or not they want to admit it, they always wanted to be the XFL. I will die on this hill. But no one watched it because it sucked.
Except Spike Lee, apparently.
Yeah, and like Vince McMahon brought it back, and then the pandemic killed it. And UPN wanted too much money to run the games, and so it folded after one season. But we got a lot of actual innovations out of like extra points. The XFL introduced new camera angles that the NFL wasn't using. So like the NFL in its infinite glory just sort of poaches good ideas from other leagues and adds them and then makes them worse.
Which is very funny because that's the exact trajectory that Vince McMahon took WWE on. So, you know, turnabout, fair play.
I do think, just as an aside and a personal rant, punting should be banned. Like, if you should have to go for it wherever 4th and 15 is, and if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you have to commit seppuku in the locker room.
I have a question.
Yes.
Would the XFL have made it past one season this time around if the pandemic had not happened?
I honestly think it would have. They had so much money, but the USFL had so much money, and the AFL had so much money.
But I think also Donald Trump was tied up in being president and running the United States into the ground.
This was the one time you could have done it without him doing this.
I mean, yes. I think a lot of it is that, like, I don't think there are very many people who are exclusively football fans, and when there's any other sport on, will simply say, no, I don't want to watch that. I'll go make a pie.
I feel like there's a line here that we can draw along with Major League Soccer, right? In that, like, an alternative to the NFL is something that people keep trying and will probably keep trying forever, but it's just like the dog that doesn't bark, right?
I believe that to be basically true, yeah.
What I think is interesting about the MLS model is that, like, the league owned the teams for the first, decade or so, and that without the ups and downs that come with different ownership groups flaming out back and forth, changing owners, it brought at least a low level of stability, even though they were taking losses in the red. You know, they need the capital that comes from these new owners to fund these new leagues. But I think that was just one angle that made the MLS have some baseline for success when it came about after the 94 World Cup. And I think that's why it's still, relatively speaking, a successful league to this day.
It's worth noting that the XFL owned all the franchises as well. The original one did, at least.
Oh, okay.
What the hell were the XFL teams? Because I'm aware of players, but like...
I'll give you an example. The Birmingham Barons. Originally, or I think they changed it because they were the Birmingham Blast originally. And, Birmingham, Alabama has a history of blasts. So they had to change it to the Birmingham Thunderbolts.
Yeah, they would go with they had very aggressive names.
The Orlando Rage, the Chicago Enforcers, the New York / New Jersey Hitmen, the Los Angeles Extreme, the San Francisco Demons, the Memphis Maniacs spelled with an X for some reason, and the Las Vegas Outlaws.
The Philadelphia Bombers, yes.
Yes. At least Eagles comes from a good place.
Pittsburgh Strike Breakers.
So I also wanted to touch on the NFL Europe, which was sort of the
Oh,
NFL's
boy.
first crack at a developmental league. It sucked and it lost $30 million a year. Next slide,
Oh
please.
yeah, they keep
Oh,
trying
God.
to make they keep trying to
Gave us
get
Kurt
Europeans
Warner.
into American
I
football.
did give us Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
On the screen, throwing a ball not entirely well, is a man named Kendall Hinton. This man had not played quarterback since he was in high school. This year, he had to start an NFL game at quarterback. So let's talk about everyone's favorite slide, the controversy slide. The notes I have are that everyone got COVID, the Ravens died, the Broncos had to play without a quarterback, the Browns had to play coachless, the fans are going to die, the reffing sucks, the game sucked, no one knows how to wear a mask. Fuck the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's about
Fuck the
right.
Cowboys.
The NFL, I wanted to spend a good amount of time devoted to the NFL's response to COVID, which has been truly dreadful. I do want to go to, we're not allowed to watch NFL games in person here in Philadelphia. Not that it matters, but the NFL has done, I think, not the genuinely worst job imaginable, because that would be the NBA right now, but making teams play when they don't have quarterbacks, rescheduling games to the middle of the week, all sorts of schedule shuffling.
Yeah, it's
for
the kind
what-
of shit that they would previously only have done if the players were striking.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
it feels like an illegitimate season. The players were allowed to opt out, but as I think I've talked about the idea of the same thing it is in college ball, where a lot of these kids felt pressured to play because they don't know when they're going to get their shot. Keep in mind, a lot of these dudes are making the league minimum, which is around $350,000, and the average NFL career is like 3.3 years at this point.
Mhm.
So
In the course of which you will
you will
certainly
get CTE. You will
Yeah.
get CTE.
You will demolish your body into tiny little pieces.
Yeah, the CTE rate on examined players who played professionally is 99%. You will get
Jesus.
CTE playing pro football. It's
It's
not a
like-
matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Well, it's like boxers, right? Like, boxers are just going to go. It's just how long they last before they do. So,
Yeah. Seamus, if I could get your opinion on how you think the NFL's handled COVID, I'd love to hear it.
The fans in the stands don't make any sense. There were a
Correct,
few
yeah.
games where they were allowed in Philadelphia, obviously not full capacity. It was, they
Right.
would say 1/10, but that includes the players, the coaches, the personnel, the assistants, the snake GM upstairs in the top booth, all of those things. And as we went on with the season, even though Pennsylvania restricted and you weren't allowed to play or have fans in games in Pennsylvania with Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and then you saw in the county of Santa Clara and San Francisco, they just didn't allow sporting events at all. So for the last couple of games of the regular season, the San Francisco 49ers played their home games at the stadium of the Arizona Cardinals, one of their divisional rivals. So they were playing, that's like if the Eagles had to play some of their games in the Cowboys stadium. Craziness. But then as you see in the playoffs or in the last weeks of the season, week 17, Cleveland played Pittsburgh. It felt like the entire Cleveland stadium was full. Arrowhead Stadium, Kansas City Stadium, where the Chiefs play, they're still in the playoffs. They will have a home game this upcoming Sunday, the AFC Championship game, the game who determines who goes to the Super Bowl. It feels like they've been at capacity all season.
Yeah, it does. It feels it certainly felt like, and I'm not sure if Bills fans were allowed, because it does depend by state. I know that
Yeah.
the Bills were talking about letting fans in, but
It was very
Yeah,
low
it's
for
felt-
the Bills. It wasn't
Right.
close to what we've seen in Cleveland or Kansas City.
yeah. And that's, there's I know this is just anecdotal, but I watch games and they'll cut to the stands and just no one's fucking wearing their masks.
No,
And I know you're outside, but like that just even if you have to go take a leak, like you're awfully close to a lot of people who have been drinking, and this doesn't seem like a good idea. And like they made the Broncos play, the NFL refused to reschedule the game, so the Broncos just basically had to take an L. They took a practice squad wide receiver in at quarterback, and he sucked. But of course he was going to suck. Like So you're basically like, that's a team that's automatically taking a loss because you have decided that like you are going to trudge on with the season no matter how unwatchable it is.
And just the sanctity of the schedule became such a disaster where you're having teams play, the NFL typically, most games are on Sundays, just trying to explain it at a novice level. Almost every game is on Sunday. Typically, there is one game that comes on at Monday night prime time, the biggest game of the week, Monday Night Football. And then also in the last half dozen of years, they've made a Thursday night football game where one team or each team plays on Thursday night at least once during the season, 16 games for each team, 32 teams in the league, 17 weeks with a bye week, so every team plays on Thursday. But the issue this season is, hey, this team has COVID. Their quarterback has COVID. We can't cancel that game outright or push it back or let them play without their star quarterback because that would hurt ratings. So now we're pushing a game that was supposed to happen on Sunday to Monday, and we're having double headers in Monday Night Football. We're pushing games back to Tuesday. There was Wednesday afternoon football this year.
Which did
it was
kind
unfair
of rule,
to. I loved it from a fan perspective, of an objective perspective of someone who wants to consume as much football as possible and have that carry me through the week. But from besides all the obvious health restrictions and the insanity of it, you were having situations where teams were playing on 4 days rest and then having like a week and a half, almost 2 weeks off after that. And it just made for the most hectic NFL scheduling I've seen that probably hasn't happened since the strike season in 1987.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's the NFL, I think, and one of the big criticisms I have of it as a fan is that the NFL sort of views itself as this sacrosanct American institution that nothing is allowed to disturb or alter. And you get the sort of arrogance of, no, we're just going to plow through ahead. And then you get some of the games this year were some of the worst games I've ever watched of professional football.
Listen, I can't hear you over the immense fly past for no fucking reason.
Oh, we're going to get there. That's actually in the next slide.
Hey, keep politics out of sports.
Giving you a segue.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about CTE real briefly. CTE is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And that's what happens essentially when you get concussed a whole bunch. And it happens, the research on this is fairly new, but the NFL has known or had known for a number of years that players were sort of either killing themselves, dropping dead in their 40s, going nuts, any sort of thing, and then covered up the research and actively called it into question because they were afraid of the repercussions. This game is literally deadly. You might not die on the field, but you will get CTE and die early at some point. CTE.
Also, you might still die on the field. Like, it is possible still.
CTE can make you angry, mood swings, psychoses, all sorts of unpleasant stuff. There are, Aaron Hernandez, the New England Patriots tight end, who was convicted of killing 2 people, had CTE according to his examination on his brain.
I think of Junior Seau.
Junior Seau. Yeah.
Who's a Hall of Fame player for the San Diego Chargers, who was having these symptoms of psychosis, mood swings, all of these kind of mental onset that comes with these repeated brain injuries. And it's tragic in a way that, not to speak of all of these players who have it, but for him specifically, where he clearly knew something was wrong. And he ended up, as a graphic or trigger warning, taking his own life, but he, again, graphic warning, shooting himself in the chest to leave his brain available for studying because of CTE. Like, that's how dark of a turn it takes for these players in their post-playing career.
And keep in mind, I want to talk about sort of labor relations too.
I'm in for that.
You have a lot more in common with these players. Again, veteran, like some of these guys, yes, are making like $100 million. The vast majority are not. The vast majority are making less than that. The average NFL career is 3 years. And remember that these guys have done nothing but play football and gotten maybe a degree from a university that's worth jack shit because all they were doing was playing football. And as we covered in the college episode, the colleges are all too happy to give them the piece of paper if it means the revenue comes in. We should talk about, I think, the NFL's labor relations. I don't necessarily have that on a slide, but Seamus, if you want to go ahead and talk about, I guess, the fact that these owners, and I talk about the stadium schemes in a bit, but the fact that these owners will sort of, cry poor, we can't give this guy this contract. That happened to former Indianapolis Colts quarterback Andrew Luck, basically retired from the game super early, I think 27, 28 years old, after being a star because he had just taken too many hits. And one of the excuses the Indianapolis Colts trotted out was that they couldn't pay for a good offensive line or O-line to protect him because he had spent so much on his contract, which of course is bullshit. And I think it just illustrates the cynicism these owners operate under and are just perfectly happy sending these guys to an early grave in exchange for the revenue.
Yeah, the NFL by far, and the four major professional sports are the NFL football, MLB baseball, NBA basketball, and NHL hockey. The NFL by far has the weakest players union, whereas you'll see in basketball and baseball, say baseball player A signs a 5-year contract worth $125 million. He's getting every cent of that. An NBA player signs a deal for 4 years worth $90 million. That player is getting every cent of that. An NFL player instead might sign a contract that is, again, 5 years, $95 million. He's not seeing all that $95 million. Contracts aren't fully guaranteed in the NFL. Players can be cut willy-nilly for an injury or poor performance. It might end up being, players sign these gigantic contracts that look gaudy, and then they're able to get cut after just a year or two without clear financial implications or issues for those teams and franchises that had signed into that deal. What makes that terrible, besides just the overall labor slant of it, is that the NFL is by far the most gruesome of the four major professional sports in North America, where they're sustaining all of these life-threatening, literally, injuries while playing, and they're not even seeing all of the money that they are supposed to get during the length of any contract.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I don't have anything to add to that. That was fucking perfect. Next slide, please.
Yes.
America. You like how it's the jets, but there's helicopters flying overhead?
Those have got turbines on them, don't they? It's fine. It still counts.
Go, Soviet
if a Black Hawk does not have turbines on it, do not tell me.
Okay. So the NFL gets money from the federal government to do these flyovers.
Mm-hmm.
And just as an illustration of where your tax money is going, these are one big recruiting tool. So obviously American imperialism is wrapped up in this. They, will send players to the games, which is whatever, fine. I don't give a shit about that. But like the flyovers and all this and rolling out the flags, the NFL is actually paid to do this, which is ridiculous. They should do it for free. At the very least, because they don't pay taxes.
I think what they should do is they can still do all of the recruiting stuff, but they have to put the same SpawnCon thing that YouTubers do on. So, like, if you click the affiliate link to enlist in the U.S. Army, we get some money.
I like that.
They should make Nate do the recruiting video. Hey, it's a bad idea to join the army, but you could do it if you wanted to.
he's on one these days. I appreciate it. Let's talk about the national anthem controversy. So a few years ago, I don't remember the exact year, Colin Kaepernick starts, after talking to some soldiers and talking to some other people, starts kneeling for the anthem as a protest of police brutality. The NFL promptly shits its pants.
Unlike you snowflakes, I'm not so easily triggered. But why man not stand song?
Down goes the Hindenburg.
Yeah. And
is-
like Colin Kaepernick being frozen out, I mean, like, as we've said, it's not like anybody needs an extremely talented quarterback right now. No quarterback shaped holes in anybody's football team.
We have Jalen Hurts. He's gonna be fine, or he's gonna suck.
Yeah, he's gonna be fine, or he's gonna suck. But what we're definitely not gonna do
He's higher Colin Kaepernick.
is hire Colin Kaepernick. He'd like genuinely
Not
been
gonna
as
do
close
that.
to fucking unpersoned as it's possible to be in America, short of being like assassinated by the FBI.
Yeah, he got blackballed by the league, and the league has sort of said, "No, we didn't. No, we didn't. No, we didn't,"
Didn't
and then
do
sort of
that.
acknowledged
Not
that
us.
they did.
They had a trial or hearing for it.
Yes. And I believe there wasn't like a document saying, the standard of evidence being basically a document saying don't fucking hire this guy. But you look at him and Ed Reed, another prominent player, who didn't
Justin
stand
Reed.
for the anthem. Justin Reed, thank you. Who didn't stand for the national anthem. Very talented player, and he got frozen out too, and then was sort of given a 1 year shitty deal. This is sort of, it's not a huge thing, but this is sort of a microcosm of America's culture war, and I wanted to talk about the idea that like it like, again, when you see someone like Colin Kaepernick kneeling or something like that, yeah, I know he's been in Nike ads, but keep in mind you have a lot more in common with Colin Kaepernick than you do with, as an example, Texans owner Bob McNair, who said we can't have inmates running the asylum when players were protesting for against police brutality and wanted sort of a more inclusive, racially diverse space, that sort of thing. You should be pissed off when an owner fucking says that, because what he sees his players as, you can make the connection.
Yes.
Like,
Bro tip, see your players as people, not as prisoners.
or as assets, or just these intangible things to be traded away when you don't like them anymore, as the Texans have nuked themselves. Next slide, please.
Just wanted to point out this nice Hess advertisement here. Get a tiny truck for Christmas.
Oh, I do like the Hess
Just a
truck.
Tiny. I used to get a Hess truck every year when I was
Me
a
too.
kid, and I don't anymore because I'm an adult and I don't buy them. It's a mistake. I should just start doing it again.
Yeah, you should just start buying them.
Should just start buying Hess trucks.
Yeah, just
Shit.
become one of those guys who just buys stuff because you like it. Just get back into
Ross, you
Lego.
have the
Fuck
money,
it.
you could do it.
Shit.
Huh?
Yeah, I could get back into Lego. That'd be a good
I don't know if we
idea.
have that much money. Subscribe to the Patreon, please.
Also,
Subscribe to the Patreon so I can buy a bunch of Lego.
Also, subscribe to Seamus's Patreon so he can play Legos with us.
That's right.
Yeah.
I guess if you're listening to this, you're already subscribed to ours. Unless you're not, in which case, subscribe immediately so that we can fucking
We know
play
you
Legos.
stole it. Just
Yes.
don't be so obvious about it in the comments, please.
We want to play the Legos.
All right. So you're probably wondering why a scene from Fear and Loathing is here. I was pretty proud of this. So I wanted to talk about stadium schemes.
Yeah.
There's numerous books on this. There's a great website I'll link. I forgot to include it in the notes. About how publicly financed stadium deals are, as one can guess, a total fucking ripoff. I have an example here. The former Oakland, now Las Vegas Raiders play in a stadium that cost $1.9 billion. Las Vegas is smaller than Hartford, Connecticut, and Palm Beach, Florida. They
Bring back the
got
Whalers.
700. Bring back the Whalers.
Bring back the Whalers. Yes.
Oh, the fucking Canes.
Aren't there a ton of stadia that like exist because teams just got bored in their old ones and just like, we just got a
left.
new one this year.
Yep.
And then the year after that, like, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
What was there nice? There was a nice U-shaped one in South Philly. They demolished. I think that was like
JFK.
way
the
long.
vet.
Must have been the vet. It was like the really old style one.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
kind of
they
like
demolished it because they
Coliseum,
wanted
almost
something-
like in a bowl.
Yes.
The Veteran Stadium. Yeah, that got demolished 2003.
Oh God. Yeah, because it was like, you should have just kept that one. There's something about a nice old-fashioned style stadium, which is just nice to have.
If the Eagles were
serious,
they could play all their games at Penn. They used to.
Which
Would've been a lot
that's
easier for me in
like
college to
good
go to games.
old-fashioned style stadium. Yeah.
But so this included $750 million in public funding, partially paid for by hotel taxes, partially paid for in a bond, and another $200 million in infrastructure improvements, by which, of course, I mean roads, and possibly, I don't know, the Elon Musk pod thing, Las Vegas.
Oh, hell yeah, I remember,
Yes. Now, if you're in, let's say, you move to a new stadium, right? You've got your football team. You go 7-9 because Derek Carr kind of sucks. And you play in a stadium where the city has said, oh, we'll just collect hotel taxes. Now imagine there's something like, I don't know, a global pandemic. Which hypothetically, which reduces the ability of people to come to your garbage oasis in the desert. And now you're going to be doing that for 30 years.
Oasis implies the abundance of water, which Las Vegas actually
Have you seen
really
the Bellagio fountain?
Has.
Have you seen the Bellagio fountain?
Yeah, that's not
tell
potable.
me that's not an abundance.
The
It's
Venetian.
not potable.
Is it the Venetian? God damn it, Seamus.
The Venetian has that.
The fountains.
You could go on the gondola rides in the Venetian.
It's not potable water.
It's
You're not
not.
potable
What the hell's
water.
wrong with it?
You don't want to know. You do not want to know the answer to that question.
It's probably all gray water that came out of the hotel sinks.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they're not even collecting rent on this stadium.
Oh my God.
It's that sort of thing. And just like, again, this has happened all over the country. As an example, the city of Cincinnati had to sell a public hospital to pay for the Bengals stadium. The Bengals suck ass.
At least the Bengals hit up their end, right?
Yeah. God. Paul Brown is the worst fucking owner in sports. I don't know. I just, again, like talking about engineering disasters, it's this sort of thing, this misappropriation of public funds. When the Braves' new stadium was built, Cobb County, which is where the new stadium is, the park thing, where they took money from a fund that was designated to build parks as part of the agreement for building the stadium, and use it instead to improve the stadium. Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
My question: How
there
much?
was like no vote on it.
If you had to, and excuse me for this, ballpark this, what percentage of this is just straight up naked corruption?
Very high 90s.
Like Soldier Field in Chicago, when they expanded that was one of the first buildings ever to be delisted from the National Register of Historic Places. It was like, yeah, this place has been irrecoverably altered by this shitty addition.
I mean,
they just put a flying saucer on top of this neoclassical building.
A lot of the owners have clauses built into these stadium contracts where they can just sort of say, oh, we're losing money, and threaten to move elsewhere. I'm waiting for the day Jeff Lurie, owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, decides to pull that stunt, because he can fucking go to Camden if he wants.
Do you remember that the Eagles almost moved in the 80s to Phoenix?
Yes, they did.
Fuck, why dream so small? You could go to Anchorage. You could go to Norilsk,
Move to...
Welcome to NFL Ruski.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, move to beautiful Harrisburg.
My entire O-line is on Crocodile.
Lancaster. Oh.
I would like an NFL team in Lancaster. They have a minor league baseball team.
NFL Murmansk.
Ooh.
NFL taking NFL Europe in a whole new
Isotopes.
Yeah, the Isotopes.
Yeah, this is a fucking scam. I will say the guy who got fucked over in the Raiders stadium deal recently departed, Sheldon Adelson. He got fucked over at the last possible second by Mark Davis, owner of the Raiders. And
also, once again, much like Trump, you're telling me this guy wasn't great at business?
People don't know what Mark Davis's real age is. Look at his Wikipedia page. They don't have a real birth year for him. It's like
Also,
58
Mark
or
Davis-
59.
Oh my God.
He could be any age.
Mark Davis
Yes.
conducts, and this is not a joke, all Raiders business from a PF Chang's bar.
Hell yes. Dudes rock.
Respect. That's
Dudes rock.
ultimate dudes rock energy.
Uh-huh.
Clark County Commissioner, which is where Las Vegas is, didn't even think they could pay the loan back at 2%, and they gave this guy $750 million. So, yeah, naked corruption, high 90s, I would say.
I don't know if is naked corruption the same as openly ripping off the government, right? Because the government has so far to this point indicated that it will pay you any amount of money it wants for any reason, as long as you don't actually need it.
Yeah, universal basic income, but on chaos mode.
Yes.
Yeah,
I kind of respect that, honestly.
you
Like,
kind of respect the hustle, right? Like, if you
Yeah.
manage to get $750 million out of a city smaller than Hartford and Palm Beach,
It
and
was
you
in
don't have to pay rent, like, and
Catch
you
22. Shit, what's the author?
Joseph Heller.
get
Joseph Heller said, there's nothing more patriotic than ripping off your own government.
that's true. All
Dudes
right,
rock.
now let's get to the centerpiece of today's presentation. This goddamn team.
The Eagles.
I just
Go
want to read
Birds.
the notes. The
Go
Eagles.
Birds.
God, I hate this fucking team. How the fuck do you go from winning a Super Bowl to this dumbass, head-ass, garbage, baby shit, soft team that can't even play cover two? Ugh. All right. The Philadelphia Eagles, the bane of my existence. Let's begin. Next slide, please.
Go Birds.
Yeah, can we get that?
You on the drop? You on the drop? Yeah.
No one respects Minnesota. Roz, do you want to explain where the Eagle and Philadelphia Eagles comes from? Because I know you know.
So the Eagle in the Philadelphia Eagles comes from a New Deal program, which I can't recall offhand.
I also cannot recall the program, but it does come
God
from
damn
that.
it.
Because I
You
have
set this
been
up and
drinking
then
all
neither
day.
of you
Yeah.
can fucking remember it.
It's the Blue
Yeah,
Eagle.
well,
It's,
it's
a new,
on account of Liam was regaling me earlier with his tales of drinking a 6-pack of Double Dog.
Okay,
right?
you know what? You're gonna get the well, there's your problem experience of me looking up the Wikipedia live. Philadelphia Eagles. Intense rivalry with the New
It's
York
the National
Giants.
Recovery
the
Administration.
National Recovery Administration. There we go. The
Yeah.
good NRA.
Yeah, the good NRA. Yeah, that's the one.
All right. This is Donovan McNabb. He's very sweaty.
Yes.
Whomst
All
among
right.
us?
So, you know what, Seamus, do you just want to go on the history
Doing
of like McNabb to like Vic?
modern era Eagles.
Yeah, just knock yourself out.
Sure.
Yeah,
On-
just look up after yourself, you know?
On May 6th, 1994, Jeffrey Lurie, on the same day I was born, buys the Philadelphia Eagles
Jesus
For
Christ,
a
you're younger
record-
than I am.
for a record price. I think was like the most expensive sports team buy of all time at the time. In 1999, the Eagles, they're okay. He hires defensive-minded coach Ray Rhodes. That's the first head coach he hires. They go to they win one playoff game in those few years. Crash and burn in 98. They hire Green Bay Packers assistant, not even an offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, formerly a tight end coach named Andy Reid, to be their head coach. And then they have, because they were so terrible, they draft with the second overall pick. So to make it more obvious for these other people, novices of the game of football, you're almost incentivized to lose in a lot of sports. If you talked about that process episode, you probably got into that a little bit. And if you have the worst record in football in a given year, you have the top pick in the following year's draft, meaning that you have your selection of any player that is draft eligible from the college football ranks. So the Eagles got the second pick of any college player. And in 1999, they took quarterback, as we said, most important position in sports, out of Syracuse, Donovan McNabb, who was a very good player for the Eagles, not necessarily a Hall of Fame talent, made a lot of Pro Bowls, which are the equivalent of an all-star team in the NFL. And for about a decade in Philadelphia, McNabb and Reed had the most successful run in team history. They made 4 conference championships, which are what's going to happen this weekend on the 21st, on the 24th of January this year. It's like the semifinals, essentially. There's 4 teams, and whoever wins those games goes to the Super Bowl. The Eagles did that all the time, but they never actually won the Super Bowl. They were very good for a long time, my entire youth, but they were never quite the best. So someone at my age, I don't know how old you all are, but I'm
older than
26
you.
going on 20,
Unfortunately.
26 going on 27 now. So I grew up in this era where the Eagles were so full of promise frequently, and I got to watch some amazing times and amazing highs. But with that came the crushing losses and crushing disappointment on the biggest of stages in the entire sport that I've thought about in the years since. I'm a crazy person in, every sense of the word. I wonder if I would be as neurotic and insane and as all over the place of a person as I am now if the Eagles had just won the Super Bowl, which is the championship in the NFL. The Super Bowl is Super Bowl. One time in my youth before they eventually won it when I was 23 going on 20.
I saw that tweet that you did. I always and to contrast with that, I grew up actually a Patriots fan, and so the run of success started around the same time. So I remember Bledsoe's final years.
Shit.
Listen, I 3 years on, and I still have never rewatched the Super Bowl. My girlfriend will ask me now and again, can we rewatch Super Bowl 52? And being the little bitch boy I am, I'm just like, no, my feelings will get hurt. So yeah, the Eagles. I remember you guys made it to the Super Bowl in 2004. Donovan McNabb pukes on the sideline and dies.
Yeah, we're gonna do the T.O. McNabb beef.
Yeah, could you do the T.O. McNabb beef?
Yeah, do you want to keep going
just
before I get into that? I feel like
outsourcing more and more of this podcast.
No, go for it. I just wanted to taunt again that Andy Reid made it to 6 divisional titles, 5 NFC championship games, and a Super Bowl, and didn't win shit in that time. And then the next time was
he
even
went
worse.
to
But go.
Kansas City and became the greatest coach of all. Not the greatest coach, but one of them. So
the original slide for this was just Andy Reid in a Chiefs shirt holding the Super Bowl trophy as a taunt, but that felt rude.
There is a huge Philly bar, a Chiefs bar, in South Philadelphia, just a couple blocks from my house, called Big Charlie's Saloon. It's been a Chiefs bar for decades. When they won the Super Bowl, I could literally not sleep that night because it was so loud, them partying from a couple blocks away. So now I kind of resent the Chiefs a little bit.
I kind of resent Mahomes at this point. I'm sick of seeing his stupid fucking face.
Yeah, I want them to lose on Sunday. But that's, again, another discussion. So there's a huge beef that irreparably changes the Eagles in that period. So the Eagles have this quarterback, as I said, they drafted in 1999, Donovan McNabb. Very good, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But as much as he carries the Eagles' offense, he helps the Eagles score touchdowns and score points. And the team was very talented defensively, but offensively, outside of McNabb, they didn't have a lot of good skill position guys to catch the ball, guys to run the ball. So for the first few years of McNabb's career, he had the worst group of wide receivers, which he discussed as the players who are catching the ball when McNabb, the quarterback, is throwing the ball downfield, trying to advance down the field. Even though they were a team that was perennially one of the best in the league, they probably had the worst positional group at wide receiver among any team in the NFL. Then comes 2004. That offseason, the Eagles swing a trade for Terrell Owens, who at that time was considered the best wide receiver in the NFL. He comes to Philadelphia and only spends one full season in Philadelphia in 2004. And he's transformative. No player has ever won over the city so quickly. He scores 14 touchdowns or so, I think, in just 14 games before he gets hurt. He gets hurt in the middle of the season. So the Eagles they finally have not just a good receiver, a great receiver, they have one of the best receivers in the history of the sport. And they had made the conference championship, the semifinals of football the last couple of years, but that season felt special. And towards the end of the regular season, T.O. suffers a gruesome injury, and he's out for the playoffs, or so it seems. So the Eagles make it back to that conference championship game and win. And they finally get over that hump and make the Super Bowl for the first time in 24 years, the first time in my life, the first time in this era we're talking about. And even though he had a broken ankle, Owens comes back for the Super Bowl. And he's one of the biggest trash talkers in the history of the sport. And he comes out and he plays unbelievable on a broken leg, has over 100 receiving yards. That's the barrier if you had a great game as a wide receiver. Did you accumulate 100 yards when you had the ball in your hands? Over 100 yards, great. 100 yards in the Super Bowl, when you have a broken ankle, that's a transformative, dynamic performance. Nevertheless, the Eagles lost that game as they were progressing down the field and losing to the New England Patriots, of course. And they were running out of time to be able to score more points and score more touchdowns and get themselves back into the game. Their quarterback, as we said, Donovan McNabb, was just winded and tired. I think he's someone who struggled with conditioning throughout his career. Did a lot of commercials for Campbell's Chunky Soup. That was a big sponsor of his, and that became a running joke in Philadelphia that he was a little too chunky. And he was legitimately puking on the field. And the huddle is where all the players get together and they decide to play, what they're going to run, what kind of pass or a rush or who they're going to throw to before the ball is snapped and the play occurs. And he is just throwing up in it, vomiting everywhere. And it's not on camera, it's not on TV, but a lot of players since then and in the years since have said, yeah, I saw it. McNabb obviously denies it. And they go into that offseason. They don't win Super Bowl. McNabb has a poor performance in Super Bowl. T.O. does great. T.O. says, and this gets back to a little bit of what we discussed when it comes to NFL labor. Not all the money in Terrell Owens' contract was guaranteed. He signed a contract that I believe was 7 years, $49 million. He said, you know what? I want a new contract. If I was bad, you could cut me. If I'm good, give me more money. I get it. The team said no. So what happens? There's a rivalry brewing within the locker room as Owens comes into the city and is instantly the most beloved athlete in the city at the time. Whereas McNabb had been there for about a half dozen years at that point and had a tumultuous relationship with the fan base. A lot of fans hated him. I think a lot of that stuff was racially targeted, besides some of the stuff of, the general football sense of not playing great in the biggest moments in the postseason and the playoffs. But again, I think the racial element played a role there. And T.O. says as the season is going on, 2004 is over. They're trying to get into the 2005 season. It's the off season. The players are starting to practice, going in a training camp and getting ready for the season. And Owens just says, I'm not practicing if you're not giving me a new contract. So what does he do? Again, he is people would call him a diva, I guess. And that's a little bit of a negative connotation that one got, but he had a flair for the dramatic. I will say that. Quite personable, charismatic, electric personality on top of being one of the best players I've ever seen. So
aware of his negotiating position.
Oh, yeah. So he lived in Morristown, New Jersey, which is a suburb just over the bridge in New Jersey from Philadelphia. And as the Eagles
lived very near my grandmother.
Yeah, as the Eagles are practicing and getting ready for the season following their loss in the Super Bowl, their star player is in his driveway in Morristown, New Jersey, shirtless, doing sit-ups, talking to reporters about how he wants a new contract, and things just kind of exploded from there. Things became very divisive in the Eagles locker room. Players took McNabb's side saying, this guy's been here a while. Owen just shows up, wants a new contract. Other guys were saying, hey, this team was something different when Owens came here. We've seen McNabb struggle. Owens was unbelievable in the Super Bowl. McNabb was lackluster. So there was a rift brewing. And even though Donovan McNabb wasn't as charismatic is not the right word, but wasn't as vocal or vociferous as a personality as Owens, wasn't as brash, McNabb still had some resentment that he was garnering all this attention when he still believed he was the reason the team was a success. And things kind of spiral out of control in that 2005 season. The Eagles don't make the playoffs. They have a down season coming off of several playoff runs. They're finally due for a down season, especially coming off of the Super Bowl. Usually call it the Super Bowl slump sometimes for a lot of teams. Never is going to be as good as the year where things almost always went right. And it gets to a point where T.O. fights a assistant who was a former player in the locker room at one point. Hugh Douglas. Are you aware of this story? I feel like people know this story, right?
Oh, yeah, the fist fight?
Yeah. So Hugh Douglas, who had formerly been a all-star Pro Bowl player for the Eagles earlier in the decade, was now back as kind of a intern, a quality control person, but almost as a liaison, I would say, between the current players and the entrenched coaches. That was his role. But well respected. T.O.'s mouthing off, and he goes and he clocks Hugh Douglas, and they fight, and Owens wins. And Owens starts saying, "Where's McNabb? He's looking for McNabb for a little fight." And I don't know where McNabb was, if he was in the building, if he was hiding in the shower or whatever. Nothing comes of that. Shortly thereafter, Owens is deactivated, which means they were like, "You're not on the team anymore. Just go the fuck home for the rest of the season." And then he was cut / released, however you want to say it, that offseason. So the Eagles had...
Deactivated really makes him sound like RoboCop, you know?
Yeah, like, goodbye. So for one period of time, they had one of the best players ever at their position.
For a year and a half.
For a year and a half, and things just could not work out because of the personality dynamics and turmoil. And, I think it just sums up success in a business function to begin with, that, there are always going to be clashing personalities. There's always going to be too many people looking for all of the credit in the world. And it's hard to actually sustain things for a long period of time. And as we see with the Eagles now, success can just be a blip rather than evidence of long-standing functionality.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Shit. Okay. And we're back in. So after that was brilliant. So after that, the Eagles don't make the playoffs to what? 2008, right?
So yes,
they make a wild
they
card
make it
game
in 2006. So 2004 they make the Super Bowl. 2005, that crazy year with T.O., they miss it. 2006, McNabb actually gets injured in the season and will become a recurring feature in Philadelphia. A backup quarterback comes in and actually leads them to a playoffs that season. Jeff Garcia was his name. Backup quarterback.
Jeff Garcia was the
had
Jeff
formerly
Garcia,
been a very good quarterback of his own with the San Francisco 49ers. Comes in, leads the Eagles to the playoffs, and they actually won a playoff game before losing in the second round. So that happens. McNabb comes back as the starter in 2007. They do okay, but they don't make the playoffs. But then the Eagles do make the postseason in 2008 with McNabb as the starter, and they once again go to that NFC Championship game, the game before the Super Bowl. But then once again, the Eagles lose in that role the last time.
To the Arizona Cardinals, right?
To the Arizona Cardinals. Larry Fitzgerald had one of the
be
Hall of Fame receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, had one of the greatest individual performances I've ever seen, specifically for a player against the Eagles. That was the last time this era where they made the NFC Championship game, the McNabb-Reed tandem. The following year, 2009, the Eagles would make the playoffs. They would play the Cowboys down in Dallas. They're hated, fierce rival for decades. Just the name of them makes my fucking blood boil. And in McNabb's last game as an Eagle, he loses the playoff game in Dallas, and he was traded that offseason. Then we do Vic.
Did Liam just go out? What happened? Is anyone there?
I'm here, but
okay.
Yeah, you still got me, but I know nothing, less than nothing. Well, that never stopped me before. In this
You know,
case, I'm like,
I could freestyle a little bit, go a little shorter if he's not giving the guides.
I was about to
So
say,
up in this-
Mr. Anderson did the slides.
What are we complaining
did,
about?
Did you just leave and come back?
I had to use the bathroom and I didn't want to interrupt Seamus.
Well, good. We closed up the
Wow.
McNabb era.
Yes.
Did we? Okay, that's good. Because now let's. I just wanted to point out that during the 2008 season, they managed to rescue that. They had started 1-4, or is it? Oh, they started badly, right? And then they went on that tear.
Yeah, they had a game where they lost like 44 to something against McNabb. Got benched during one game. That's how bad the Eagles
That's
were
right.
going.
And then he came back and he was decent. This is also the season that they tied the Bengals, and Donovan McNabb didn't know that you could tie in the NFL, which you can do. And
they
if
tied
you
against the
play
Bengals
in
this year.
overtime, yeah, it was terrific. To tie against, it was fucking embarrassing.
10 years or 12 years later.
How do I football?
Next slide, please. Yeah,
how do I open NFL?
I don't know how to do narratives with sports. I'm bad at it, unless it's the Sixers, in which case I'm good. All right, Mike Vick.
Unproblematic man.
I
Lots
actually
to unpack there.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to have a little roundtable discussion about Mike Vick, because so Mike Vick signs with the Eagles after serving 21 months in federal prison for dogfighting. He had been amazing in college. He formerly played where he went Virginia Tech. He had been drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, and I remember as a kid being like no other quarterback I'd ever seen. Because
for our age group, he was the coolest athlete in the world at that time.
He could, like, in an era when quarterbacks didn't really run, Mike Vick could run, and has the most rushing yards by any quarterback. I believe holds the record for most rush yards per attempt by any player. He's, I think, still one of the only, if not the only, quarterback for rush for 1,000 yards.
The top two are Eagles for rushing yards per attempt all time, not just for quarterbacks overall. Vick and Randall. How about that?
Oh wow,
Randall Cunningham, who was a black quarterback for the Eagles in the 80s and 90s.
So Mike Vick is controversial because the Eagles signed him knowing that he had done these things. He had gone to prison for them. And my personal opinion on Mike Vick is that people are deserving of second chances, but I kind of wish it hadn't been in professional football. And I certainly don't necessarily wish it had been with the Eagles. But I don't know what the answer is, because a lot of these guys never fucking get punished. Ben Roethlisberger, quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, allegedly, although it's pretty substantial evidence, raped a woman in a bathroom and nothing ever came of it. Players do horrible shit all the time. I do kind of wonder, you know, if Mike Vick had been white, if he would have even gone to jail.
21 months for I think he was made an example of. I didn't necessarily like the signing of him. I feel conflicted about his time in Philadelphia. I'm huge dog lover. It's weird. I do think that he served an abundance of time that, again, I don't think would have necessarily happened if he were a white quarterback. And I think the uproar of him coming back in the league probably would have been a little lessened again if he was a white quarterback. But still kind of an icky situation at this.
Icky situation is a good way to put it.
Liam, you have told me multiple times in person that the only thing you think people should be executed for is animal abuse.
No, also treason.
Also treason, yes.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to be nuanced here, but yeah, my genuine opinion of Mike Vick is that, like, I see people wear Vick jerseys around Philly still, and I get fucking sick to my stomach. Is my honest answer. It's the one reason I could never fully get on board with the Eagles as a franchise was that signing, and I root for a team that had Aaron fucking Hernandez, so I don't know what that tells you. Yeah, so I do think, like I said, second chances are important, but giving it to a guy who had done that was not my favorite move, and I remain skeptical that the Eagles should have signed him in the first place. But what's done is done. So they trade Donovan McNabb to the Washington football team in And so we're rolling with stop it, Mike Vick and his backup Kevin Cobb. I remember Vick being amazing but wildly inconsistent. Like he could run real good, and he could make incredible throws, especially to Deshaun Jackson, who was another player I remember being younger and just blowing my mind because I had never seen anyone as fast as him.
He's still one of my favorite players ever. Again, a controversial tenure in Philadelphia as well.
Yeah, so a whole lot of nothing happens, but I did want to talk about the Mike Vick signing and highlight it as just an example of like this league has some pretty dark, depressing history. And whether or not you agree with the Mike Vick signing, like I said, I think the general consensus is pretty mixed. But I did want to say about Andy Reid, then the coach of the Eagles, now the coach of the Chiefs, and during his tenure with both, he has given a lot of guys with a lot of histories a lot of chances. And I don't think a ton of other guys, and I mean chances specifically for black players, and I don't think there are many coaches around the league who are willing to do that. You know, Tyreek Hill, who is currently a wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, broke his kid's, ripped it out of the socket or some gruesome shit.
Very gruesome.
And Andy Reid gave him a second chance.
Not an isolated incident.
No. They had,
again, cannot stress enough how much brain problems all of these guys have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 99% of NFL players have CTE. I mean,
fun fact, by the way, about violence and like violent behavior. They did a test for CTE on death row inmates and found a 100% rate of it. So
really,
yeah.
Turns out if you continually whack your noggin into other things, it's going to cause damage to your noggin.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest,
that's why you should row, because all you do is go into the Anacostia when you tip over.
No, that just gives you like continuous, like
stuff.
rapid changes from ambient temperature to like 32 degrees, which is like living in London, which apparently gives you a very high rate of heart attacks.
The human body is a miracle, isn't it?
Yeah. Next up on well, there's your problem. We solve the Glasgow effect. We find out why it's happening.
Well, maybe you should not, maybe you should just live in a climate that isn't shit.
You should live in Philly where it's shit, but at least we like it.
Yeah, it's a good kind of shit.
95 degrees now in the summer. It's fucking intolerable.
Oh my God.
All right. So the last few years kind of end with a whimper. And then eventually Andy Reid in the 2012 season goes 4-12 and he gets fired. Is there anything more you want to add from the Mike Vick era?
Yeah.
All right. Next slide, please. Let's talk about Chip fucking Kelly.
Little chode bitch.
God, I fucking hate Chip Kelly. All right. One of the things to know about this guy is he's a fucking racist.
Okay.
Fucking just huge asshole. Egomaniac.
Yeah. As I said, this is the airing of grievances episode. So this guy comes from the University of Oregon, where he had been a really good coach, actually. Never mind the fact that the University of Oregon never does shit.
I thought they didn't have racists out there. I thought they were all like nice.
In the white supremacist colony?
Yeah, in the state that was founded as a white supremacist colony. I thought they were nice out there and they weren't racist.
There's never been a single racist north of the Mason-Dixon line. That's how it works. Read a history book.
That.
Yeah, I've been to Northeast Philly and I can conclude it's a multicultural paradise.
Yes.
So fucking Chip Kelly, to his credit, in the 2013 season, wins a division title in his first year with our new baby boy, Nick Foles. You will see him later. He is to be dressed as Sir Big Dick Nick for reasons we'll address later.
Yes.
The amount of chants I heard after they won the Super Bowl that were just people screaming "Big Dick" in my face. I was like, "Oh, it's pride."
Yes.
So they lose to the Saints in the wild card round, but they sent the Cowboys home, so at least there's that. And then the 2014 season, the Eagles start great at 9-3, but they finished at 10-6 and missed the playoffs. So they collapsed.
Crushing
basically.
season for me. That was one of the that really fucked me up as a fan that season.
Buckle up because we're gonna get to 2015. At some point, you guys signed Mark Sanchez.
That was in 2014, going into that season to be Nick Foles' backup. Nick Foles gets hurt in the year. Sanchez comes in, plays well immediately. The Eagles actually throttled the Cowboys on Thanksgiving behind a great performance from Sanchez to go 9-3, and then they proceed to lose their next 3 games and get eliminated from the playoffs. Eliminated from playoff contention, a playoff spot. They were knocked out, however you want to say it.
Mark Sanchez is best known for fumbling that. Thank you, Roz. I appreciate that caricature. For fumbling the football off one of his guards' butt. That is what Mark Sanchez is best known for.
Also dating a 17-year-old girl while he was a starting quarterback for the New York Jets.
He what now?
That was you weren't
Hold
aware
on,
of that.
I have a drop
didn't
for
know
this.
that. Don't do Go Birds. Please don't do Go
No,
Birds.
it's not Go Birds.
He was
It's
on
not
the
going to be
Jets
Go
for it. He was on the
Birds.
Jets for it.
It's
How
Donald
old
Trump.
was he?
It's Donald Trump
I mean, he was in his
over-pronouncing the
early
word
20s,
pedophilia like it's
I mean, he was in
Italian.
his early 20s. But
Pedophilia.
Jesus Christ. I didn't know that.
Pedophilia.
Pedophilia.
Technically legal.
Il pedofilo duccio. Come si dice? Pedofilia.
Pedophilia.
Thank you. All right. So
Anytime.
the 2015 season where everyone dies, gets traded, or isn't re-signed. So the Eagles lose basically their entire starting lineup. Not literally, but they lose Nick Foles. They lose their very good running back, LaShawn McCoy. They lose Evan Mathis, who's very good. And they get Sam Bradford, who is a walking pile of dog shit. He's really bad. And DeMarco
Loser.
Murray, who had
big
been
loser.
good the year
Also
before.
big loser energy.
Yeah, the year before had been amazing on the Cowboys, but that's because the Cowboys had an O-line. Once again, the Eagles proving you don't need an O-line to play football. So that's they trade LaShawn McCoy, Kiko Alonso, who sucked. And this is Chip Kelly. This is where we were saying racist. Chip Kelly had been accused of being a racist. Was it Deshaun Jackson or LaShawn McCoy who have accused him of it?
Sean, I believe.
Yeah. That Chip Kelly basically hated the black players and got rid of all the good ones. Interestingly enough.
He kept Riley Cooper.
Riley Cooper is famous for screaming the N-word at a country concert in
At a
Camden, New Jersey.
Kenny Chesney concert.
Was it
Just-
Camden
I think
or
it was
was
at
it
the
South
apropos
Philly?
the Eagle,
like-
it was literally at the Eagles Stadium.
Oh my God.
Why? Like, I don't expect that there's such a thing as a good reason, but what was his reason?
He was going to fight
He
any
will
N.
fight every blank
Ah,
over there,
Yes.
Cool.
He
Okay.
went to the University of Florida.
uh-huh.
which Howie Roseman went to.
Fucking Howie Roseman. Once again, ashamed to be Jewish. You got anything to add for the Chip Kelly era besides the fact that he's a racist who sucked ass?
Just he thought he was the smartest. The least smart person is the person who assumes they're the smartest person in the room. The smartest person is smart enough to be aware that they're not the smartest person in the room.
That's
Good
my
advice.
brain hurts.
Genius.
Dunning-Kruger effect. It's real.
Then they would be
Next slide, please.
Never mind. Next slide.
All right, this is going to be the reminiscing slide.
Yes.
All right. You know what? So Chip Kelly is fired. Doug Peterson is hired in 2016, and the Eagles trade up for Carson Wentz, a quarterback out of, was it North Dakota or North Dakota State?
North Dakota State.
North Dakota State.
Go Bison.
Go Bison. Perennial college football powerhouse in the lower division, which is known as FCS. Are you just extending the crosswalk?
No, what I'm doing is I'm doing the School of Athens.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful terminating Vista here.
In Carson Wentz's first year, they go 7-9, but whatever. He's a rookie quarterback, and he had
Yeah,
been,
it was fine. It was
Yeah.
an optimistic year.
All right, Seamus, since you've been an Eagles fan since you came out of the womb, you want to just talk about your memories of the 2017 season and how good it was?
Oh man, I was 23. I had taken about a year off from college at Penn. I had to go back for my last semester, so I'm not living on campus. I'm commuting and taking the bus to University City and back, a couple of days a week, and I'm just consuming Eagles podcast. And there was just a different energy in the city that year. When the Eagles are good in general, the vibe, the atmosphere is just not what it usually is. People are just literally seem happier, and because they are. And that year obviously ended in the Super Bowl, but it was one of those things where fans could tell that season from just a couple of weeks into the season, I would say from about week 3 on, that there was just something special, something different about that team, different that season. And, I'm kind of getting my shit together, getting my degree finally, going to games every Sunday down to Link. I'm partying in the parking lot before the game, tailgating. I go in the game and it's an easy win. So it feels like, all that anxiety and worry that's usually a part of every Eagles game and so synonymous with my fandom overall, this gnawing feeling that, the floor is about to fall out on you or you're going to get bopped in the face at the last second, doesn't really happen that season until in December. The Eagles look like the best team in the NFL. Are we getting into, do you want to do the Foles Wentz thing or?
Yeah, go for it.
I don't really care.
You deserve this, Seamus.
Yeah, so I could go on a little personal touch too. So in December, the Eagles are slated to play the Los Angeles Rams. The Eagles are like the best team in football. The Rams are also very, very good that season in this big game in Los Angeles at the classic Coliseum. I was at the time, given my own personal slant, looking for a new job upon my December graduation. And I'm just, throwing, feelers out to a million different places. And I applied for this job in LA. I don't even know I couldn't even tell you what the job was really at this point. It was just, a nonsense, startup company, digital startup company job. And I'm having this phone call conversation with them. And I'm just like, yeah. Just like trying to get to the next stage. You know what I mean? Try to leave an impression. They were like, well, we'd like to see how people are in person before we hire them. We see how they are in the workforce. Would you want to come to LA and like work for us as like a work trial for a week before we extend you an offer? I'm like, newsflash, I live in like fucking Philadelphia. How am I going to do that? And they're like, we'll literally pay for you to fly here for your stay at an Airbnb and give you a per diem if you want to come here. And I was like, all right. Like, and it was like the week between, the last week of classes and finals. So I was like, fuck it, I'll do this. And they were like, well, you would start this Monday. We could fly you in Monday morning. And I'm like, I look at the calendar. That's Sunday. The Eagles are playing in Los Angeles. So I say, hey, would it be possible if you fly me out on Sunday morning instead, just so I have a day to adjust to the time zone change? And they're like, yeah, sure. So I get like a 6 a.m. flight from Philly, and I have a layover in Chicago. So I'm nervous about delays and all this thing. So as soon as my plane is taking off from Chicago, I buy a ticket to the Eagles game from my phone. And as soon as I land, I go and throw my crap into this unbelievably nice, too nice for me, for a dumbass 23-year-old Airbnb in beautiful Santa Monica, hop in an Uber to the Coliseum. I go there. I get this big, 30-ounce Bud Light. I walk to my seat. The weather's beautiful. There are Eagles fans all over. I'm in one of the most famous sports stadiums in the entire world. And I just, I'm about to get my degree, and I feel like I am literally, have the world by its balls. And just shortly into the game, Carson Wentz, who again had been this savior figurehead in Philadelphia, they had just drafted him with one of the top choices in the NFL draft the previous year, looked like the most valuable player, like he would win the league's most valuable player award that season, suffers a gruesome injury of his own and tears his ACL. I walked up the stand. The Eagles still won. They clinched the division. They were going to go to the postseason. But I had gone all over across the country to see the Eagles at this moment I thought would be their pinnacle to that point in the season. And it was just this crushing defeat that felt like the end of what we all assumed was going to be the best season of our lives. Obviously, didn't get that job. Thank God. I like where my life's at now. So I come back to Philly. I worked for them for a week. They gave me like $100 every day. I was just like going out to eat at these like phenomenal Mexican restaurants at night, getting a nice 8 hours of sleep in this beautiful Airbnb. It was like a mini vacation that I had to go sit in this workstation for 7 hours a day, just checking emails, doing nothing. Didn't get offered a job, come back to Philly, and Nick Foles, who had left a few years back, had some success under Chip Kelly, that offseason had been signed to be the backup quarterback to Carson Wentz. The prodigal son had come home. He comes in as Wentz's backup, gets him into the playoffs, and then once the playoffs start, he turns into Tom Brady. He's better than we even thought Wentz was for that short period of time. 3 years ago today, we're recording this, the Eagles made the NFC Championship game. The game for so many years in my life had been a day of worry, knowing that the Eagles were inevitably going to lose this game. And I'm there, and they absolutely fucking bone crush the Minnesota Vikings by a score of 38-7.
Go Birds.
Roll into the Super Bowl.
Yep, roll it
Now we
Alice.
have all these
Roll it Alice.
The game is at the link. The game was over in the second quarter. The Eagles had victory was in hand. And while the Super Bowl was obviously a bigger magnitude of a win, more important, but that game was a nail biter until the last second. The NFC Championship game was like the biggest 70,000 person party I've ever been at. They just like, there were no rules. I walked home from the stadium, was walking down Broad Street, walked back to my house in South. I was told my parents' house in South Philly, and it was just, one of those things like, what more could you ask for? And then the following 2 weeks later, they won the whole thing. The city goes wild. It's amazing. They have a victory parade that we always talk about for years in Philadelphia. I just want to see the Super Bowl parade. I would, bullshit with my friends like, oh, what are you going to do when the Eagles win the Super Bowl? My friend was like, oh, I'm going to take my car and I'm going to like leave the keys in the middle of the car. And I'm going to like throw beers out from the trunk and tell people to beat the shit out of my car. And then I'm going to collect a bunch of insurance money. And I'm like, that's insurance fraud. And I'm like, he's like, I'm going to do it. And then I meet this friend on Broad Street the night they win. And he just like, I go up, I give him a huge bear hug. Like I don't even say anything to him. He goes, dude, cops said at 2 a.m. I can move my car here. And I don't know what happened after that, but I think he really wanted to get his car fucked up. Like had been saying that for years, like not just a one-time thing. That was what was going to happen. He was like, yeah, just beat the shit out of him. He had car problems. I've never seen a person with more car problems in my life, so it made sense. Then I have a huge Super Bowl parade. I meet my girlfriend at the Super Bowl parade. I was tweeting about the Super Bowl. We could get into the story. Do you know like the VJ Day picture where the sailor is kissing that woman?
Yes.
Kind of like an iconic photo. So just like I fuck around on Twitter all the time. That's obviously how you found me on this podcast. I tweeted like the day after the Super Bowl or the night of when I was walking to Broad Street to go party after being at my friend's house with my family. I was like, I tweeted out that picture and just like bullshitting around. I was like, me and your girl on Broad Street tonight, like just like fucking around, just like I'll go make out with someone's girl, like just fucking around. And then the next day, obviously, like I just woke up and like kept partying, like went to the Eagles little pro shop, the store at the stadium that sells all the merchandise. And there's like a 200 person line to get in to go buy all the Super Bowl merchandise that says Super Bowl champs. So I buy a bunch of shit. I'm decked out. I go to McGillin's. The first bar in Philadelphia, one of the oldest bars in Philadelphia. So I'm sitting there. We're drinking, me and my buddy Mike, we're drinking pitchers of green beer with my best friend my entire life. We're sitting there like this is literally all we talked about doing our entire fucking life was like going out drinking after the Eagles win the Super Bowl. And it's like 3:00 in the afternoon. Neither of us has a real job right then. And I get a message on Twitter from a girl who I did not know replying to that tweet of like the people kissing. And she was like, we should recreate this at the Eagles parade. And I was like, all right, my DMs are open, like that eyes emoji thing. And she DMs me and was like, hey, like, I'm serious. We should do this. And I'm just like, all right, yeah, let's do it. I'm just thinking like, I've been burned by girls in my time. Like, we'll see what happens here. Like, I'm going to go along for the ride, but we'll see what happens. Inevitably, we do meet up at the parade that I'm sitting at Broad and Shunk. She's at Broad and Federal. Once the parade passes me, I walk down to meet her. We meet up real quick. I tell her I'm sitting outside the Pep Boys there at Broad and Federal. I text her.
Oh, fuck that Pep Boys.
We ended up meeting
They
up.
fucking stole from me.
I've never been inside. I've never been a customer of them, so I can only speak for the exterior. Anyway, we go on the street and just like make out, do that kiss. My buddy Enzo takes a picture of us. Very South Philly name. Would be great for Nick Sirianni, their new head coach. And then I tweeted out with the like initial tweet that I sent and like the DM she sent me, and it got like 15,000 fucking retweets. I had to like Time Magazine did a story about it. We had to go like on Fox 29 News, CBS 3 News to talk about all this shit. It was insane. And we live together now. We've been living together for like 2 years.
Oh yeah.
So if the Eagles didn't win the Super Bowl, I'd probably be sitting in like my fucking parents' basement right now. But now I have like a life and live with this woman.
Go Birds.
Alice,
Go
drop
Birds.
it. God damn it.
That's all I have to say. Salute.
Oh fuck.
Salute.
Shit.
That. In case you're wondering where that audio is from, that is from the NFC Championship. That is the drunkest man I've ever seen in my entire life, taunting like a nice Minnesota housewife.
He was like in a high. That's like a high school kid.
He's like angled 90 degrees over backwards. He's like half ragdolled.
Yeah, he's just.
You know that Minnesota nice woman thought she was giving him a piece of his mind, and he was
you
just
can
like,
hear her in the background. Like, I'll do it again.
Talking about?
Listen for her voice here, and you can hear her be like, "No, damn it."
You'd be treated with more respect in Minnesota. It's like, yeah, we don't fucking care.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be treated with more respect in Minnesota.
This picture is from City Hall the night the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So my story about this is Roz and I started watching it at our friend Sean and Philip's house.
I'm getting another beer. I will contribute to the story at some point.
Yeah, and
I didn't know we were drinking until too late. I would have got some beers for this.
Yeah, we're pretty much always drinking on this, Seamus. If
Yeah.
you come back on
For next time.
And
Next time.
the sole exception, I'm only drinking Red Bull to try and stay awake.
Yeah, you're dying. So
Oh, yeah.
I did a coffee at like 5 to get amped for this.
Seamus, I subscribe to your Patreon now. Yeah,
Awesome.
on air, baby.
Hell yeah.
That's the sloppiness
Hell
we
yeah.
like here on WTYP. So
Cross-brand synergy.
that's right. Don't do that. So Roz and I go to our friend's house, and I had my other friend Shane, who was living, I think at like 20th and more at the time, down in South Philly, was like, hey, I'm a little worried there's gonna be riots. Can you guys come down here? And if anyone comes rioting, can you just sort of point my SKS at them? And we said, sure. And we like just went down to his house, and he had a case of hams. And I remember listening to like a couple cases of hams. And me, him, and his girlfriend at the time were like watching this fucking this game with like with the shitty Eagles radio feed, and the illegal stream kept going out, and then it was clear the Eagles had won, and I just heard the most noise I've ever heard, just like fireworks and screaming and like people just running around, and everyone started immediately streaming onto Broad Street, and we got on Shane's
There were
deck.
no rules.
No, there weren't any rules, and I started airdropping people hams from the deck.
You were allowed to commit insurance fraud.
You were allowed
Yeah.
to do whatever you fucking wanted that night. I just remember walking up Broad Street with Roz, and some guy just handing me an open bottle of champagne, and I just chugged it and threw it.
Philadelphia becoming a PvP enabled zone is extremely funny to me.
Yeah, but it was a PvP enabled zone, but no one actually wanted to PvP.
No, they
Unless
wanted to
for some
PvP
reason-
the Wawa.
Yeah, they wanted to PvP objects,
Yeah,
not people.
like trees got moved, lampposts got knocked over. I will.
The Ritz Carlton's awning was collapsed because people tried to climb on top of it. That's the we talked about that in one of a recent episode.
Yeah, it was absolutely no fucking rules at all.
People hauled a keg over the gates of City Hall.
I broke my foot
Yes.
You remember I hugged that guy and fell off the curb and broke my foot? You had to limp me the whole way home.
Yeah, I had
Did you
to
really?
limp you
Yeah.
from 15th
Did you
Street
literally
to
break it or you just
42nd
all
Street.
fucked up?
I don't know if I literally broke it. I never saw a doctor, but I basically couldn't walk.
You went all the way to University West City, West Philly?
Yeah,
University
42nd
City
and
from
Sansom
there?
on it.
Yeah, I had to limp him
You were
the
like
whole way.
you were like T.O. in the Super Bowl.
I was. And just people were like giving us beers and we were giving them
I
beers.
badly want a
I don't know-
statue
I don't
of
know
like
where-
the fucking like
I had a big bag
wounded
of beer, I
soldier
was just
being
giving it to anyone.
carried back with like laden down with beers that people are giving you.
Roz is like,
I think I got carried back too, but for different reasons.
I have never seen, and like, I know Philadelphia has a reputation for being this destructive city, and we are. But
yes.
to be fair, it was just the Broad and Walnut Wawa at that point. Yeah, next slide, please.
Oh my God.
We're almost done.
Stop
These are all the
believing
cops
it.
guarding
I'm trying not to
the
yawn
Wawa.
too much.
These are all the cops guarding the Wawa. This is the most Philly image I've ever taken.
Who do you serve? Who do you protect?
Well, they were like,
Wawa is a Lenape term, so they are obviously
Yeah,
protecting
this is
indigenous
decolonization
peoples.
in action.
next slide, please.
Wawa is actually Lenape for goose. That's why they have the goose as the logo.
This is Nick Foles. He is your god. You will bow to him.
Big
So
Dick
he
Nick.
actually is nicknamed Big Dick Nick because someone someone asked Jason Kelsey like who's got the biggest schlong, and he like without hesitation said Nick Foles. I believe
It's an internet rumor that's going along way since he was on the Eagles the first time around. I saw like creepy pasta Reddit type post of this going back to like 2013.
Wait, creepy? Like
being
Nick
serious.
Foles' dick is
You know what I mean? Like, just like-
cryptid?
He's got a cryptid dick.
No, just like random like internet shit posting that's been going on
addictive-
forever. I feel
Addictive.
like.
I also just bought a Brian Dawkins jersey. Thanks, Patreons.
Call
my
my dick
God.
the Slender Man.
Now I can get in a fight with somebody outside of Tacanelli's Pizza at 3 a.m. Let's do this shit.
Like a Slender Man is very tall. He's not very wide. Like,
Yeah, but
You're
he's
like,
long. He's like,
Oh my
you
God.
get a long dick. Like
yeah,
if your
but what
dick
if you're
was
going?
slender.
What if you're going for girth? Right? What do you do then?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not. I guess you could have like a Mothman dick.
You know, like those gliders that they used during the invasion of Normandy.
Maybe you get like a Sasquatch dick.
A Sasquatch dick implies that it's very hairy.
Yeah, that's a good.
Maybe
point,
that's none of
yeah.
your business, Alice.
Well, that's true.
That's a good point. The abominable snowman. Dick.
All right.
Hmm.
Moving swiftly along. What have the Eagles done since then? Yeah, does that work?
Probably not. We can
No,
never
I
get
was about- I
YouTube
was
to
about to
work
say,
on our
what-
YouTube.
What did you try to put here?
Cody Parkey double doinking.
Fuck it, we'll do it in post.
Was it a video?
Yeah, it was a
Yes.
YouTube video that I linked to in the YouTube slides.
All right. So what we can do is we can try and
Christ.
remedy
Close
this
your
by-
tabs,
listen.
dude.
Listen.
Close
Can you guys
your
hear me
tab-
right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I just took my like HD camera I hook up because the built-in camera on the MacBook is fucking terrible, and I had to like charge my computer. So I just want to make sure we're all good.
We're all
Oh
good.
yeah, we're fine.
All right.
Cool.
Run it. Show me Cody Parkey letting the Bears down.
The video. I don't think you'll be able to hear the audio.
You don't need to. Watch the ball. Watch what
Okay.
happens to it.
Doink,
I'm
doink.
watching. We can Madden this, in fact.
That's a good point. No, I can't because I don't have the
So the
fuck.
Eagles have called a timeout. So this field goal, which is good, does not count.
Yes.
Eh,
Yeah, Roz and I, we watched this game, didn't we?
Always ice the kicker.
Oh, because Corinne
Just do
called
it
me.
because it's funny, if nothing else.
Corinne called me sobbing because she didn't realize that it had gone out. Why are there always people screaming in my house?
I don't know. I had a guy screaming on the street outside for like half an hour.
That is Nick Foles
That's
looking
normal,
like he's
though.
about to shit his pants. Who cares who that? Oh, it's Mr. Trubisky. All right, so we're lining up to kick again. The Eagles did something that's called icing the kicker, where you call a timeout in order to throw off the kicker's rhythm.
Just another insane wrinkle of football.
Just doing some psychological warfare.
That's
on this
literally
guy.
what it is. Yes.
Yes.
So you'll notice the ball hits
Doink.
doink, and it's out. It's no good. The Eagles win.
Oh,
Cody
the double
Parkey-
doink.
Cody Parkey is shot immediately after. So
Crimes against Chicago.
So Carson Wentz had gotten hurt. So the next season in Super Bowl, the defense of the Super Bowl title, Carson Wentz got hurt again. We had to wrangle a big dick Nick a second time.
I remember the what's it? The Pico building
Oh yeah, showing the double doink.
displayed the double doink all night that night.
All right, so
was
that's the
wonderful.
last good thing the Eagles ever did.
I'm a
Yes.
little bit jealous of Philadelphia that in general you have one team. Like Glasgow, we just have sectarian violence. We have two teams. So like that's a PvP enabled zone.
It's
Rather than
unfortunate.
like PvE. And so you'll never really get the same experience of the entire city just being like, no, fuck you, we do this now.
Yeah, you need to send one of them to Edinburgh.
It is always amazing when you see.
And if they have a team, you need to send them to Inverness.
Oh, can I get the next slide, please, to explain the Philly special?
Okay, I have another slide. Oh, this is shit.
It's
this
still
is
the video.
YouTube video. Okay.
All right, next. Yeah, cool. This is Nick Foles and Doug Peterson immortalized. Neither of these guys is affiliated with the Eagles anymore. This
There's a
is a
statue
statue
of them outside the stadium.
Yes. They are. There's this bit of audio that's become very famous where Nick Foles runs over to Doug Peterson, the coach, in the Super Bowl and asks, "Do you want Philly, Philly?" And Doug Peterson says, "Yeah, let's do it." And my favorite part of that is that he immediately screams at Nick Foles, "Wait, wait, 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 wait." So the Eagles in the fucking Super Bowl run a trick play against New England Patriots, which involves Nick Foles, the quarterback, catching a pass from a tight end, I think.
Correct.
And
The backup tight end. The old backup
backup
tight
tight
end
end.
reverse pass.
yes. And that was when it became pretty fucking apparent, at least to me, that the Eagles probably were going to somehow manage to pull this thing out of their asses. That was an incredibly special play. I've seen people with tattoos of that play call. There are shirts with it. Truly an incredible play. Bud Light, for what it's worth, sponsored the parade and gave everyone in Philadelphia a free Bud Light, except for Roz and I, because we went to the wrong bar.
We never got ours.
That was
we
all,
never got
that
our
was
free
all
Bud Light.
nonsense. It was impossible to get one of those.
We went to the wrong bar somehow.
You claim to be socialists, and yet universal basic income.
Universal
Ev.
Basic Bud Light was not
Yeah,
given to us.
universal Bud
basic
Light
beer.
income.
All right, next and final slide.
Is
Oh,
this
thank
a
God.
tower crane or what the hell is going on up here? You see
Yeah,
this?
that's probably the casino, dude.
Yeah, but what is going on here? Because that doesn't look like a tower crane counterweight. That looks
It
Oh, I
looks
don't
like
know.
a shitty lamppost, man.
yeah, it does.
Where's
Well,
the
like
rest
it
of it?
No, I think it is probably a lamppost.
That would make sense.
Oh my god!
All
All
right.
right.
We like to have fun here.
So this past year, the Eagles sucked big old donkey balls.
Hmm.
Carson Wentz sucked. There was no O-line. Carson Wentz got benched. Carson Wentz wants out of Philadelphia. The Eagles went 4-11-1, ruined the Giants season in the process, which was at least terrific. I spent an entire evening on Twitter arguing with other fuckhead suburbanite Eagles fans who think tanking is good. Let's see what else happened. We tied with the goddamn Bengals again. We choked away a 27-0 lead to Washington, or 17-0. Carson Wentz sucks. So there's no fucking O-line. There's no receivers. Everyone's dead. The team's too old.
Everyone has COVID.
Howie Roseman, our GM, can't draft for shit, and yet is not held responsible for the failures of this team.
He will be
what
here
else
forever.
we got? He will be here forever.
Just like
James, you like these
Kissinger,
notes?
you're just waiting.
Lessons, Wentz, Howie Roseman, fuck.
His mysterious brother, Huey Roseman, who's been
I
up
hope
at
Type's
Master
good.
this entire time.
Good. I will say that one of the things we've learned is the Eagles probably overextended trying to keep that group together. They have a lot of old players. They have no young talent to speak of. They can't draft wide receivers. Anything else to add?
They stink.
They do stink.
They stink.
Stink.
Stank.
Well, there's always next year.
Stunk.
Yeah.
I think we should wrap this up so Alice can go to bed. We've been here.
The kind. Next one of these bonus episodes is my turn, right?
Yeah. What are you doing?
I have no fucking idea. I will think about it. You guys got any suggestions? Actually,
the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, sure. Fuck it. Why not?
Military uniforms.
I'll come back.
Chance to come back.
I'll come back. Anything Philly, just throw me on.
Yeah.
All right, Seamus, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to do the plug again?
Sure. Just follow me on Twitter at Seamus, SHAMUS _Clancy. Be sure to check out my Philadelphia sports newsletter, patreon.com/Seamus _Clancy. Just $2 per month as the basic lowest level. You can get an email newsletter in your inbox every Monday through Friday morning. Great value, tons of sports content, analysis, rants, craziness. If you like me on this podcast, you'll love the newsletter. If you hated me, sign up anyway. I don't give a shit.
No, you were terrific. Thank you for carrying me, Seamus.
Of course. I had to hold down the fort when you were in your bathroom break.
I was gone for 30 seconds, dude.
It just coincided when I finished up the McNabb
to my
era.
world, Liam.
You go to the bathroom all the time. Are you fucking kidding me, dude?
I go to the bathroom exactly one time every episode.
It's the funniest thing to say about anyone is you go to the bathroom almost all the time. It's like, that's
what you do.
You have a tiny girlish bladder. I don't want to hear it.
Food and drink, and then you must excrete the waste, and you're criticizing people for having to do that.
Yes.
I'm
criticizing your timing, which is always bad.
I cannot control nature.
I know. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good Lord. All right.
Well, that went better than expected.
Yeah, that was
good.
a podcast. We done did it. We done did the podcast.
We did the podcast. I'm gonna go sleep for several days now.